Oh, jeez. It's December. It's nearly Christmas. Ah, yes, December, one of my favorite times of the year. And honestly, Christmas might just be my favorite time of the year. And if you're wondering why I'm having this Morty doll narrating instead of just showing you pictures and stuff, well, it's to show just how inconsistent my channel really is. So sometimes you will see this guy, and sometimes you won't, so isn't that great? But anyways, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, that's right, Chris! Well then, that was weird. So yeah, as I just said, I love Christmas, and I also love movies. So, I love Christmas movies, that's just kind of a given. And today I'm going to talk about not only one of my favorite Christmas movies ever made, but this might just be one of my favorite movies ever made. Today I'm going to be talking about Home Alone. Oh wait, no. Here on the script it says that I'm supposed to talk about Home Alone 2. Well then. This is awkward. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. Why are you not talking about Home Alone and instead why are you talking about Home Alone 2? And well, almost everyone knows that the first Home Alone is a great movie, and almost everyone has already talked about it, but people don't usually talk about the sequels very much, and well, that's because the Home Alone sequels are almost universally hated. Actually, I didn't even know that the fourth and fifth one even existed until like a couple of weeks ago. I only thought there was the first, second, and third, and well, I've only seen the first three as well, and well, the third one sucks, let me just say that. And no, I have no intention of watching the fourth or fifth one because I really do not care. They don't look good, they don't look interesting, I just don't want to watch them. However, I feel like most people tend to leave Home Alone 2 in this pile of sequel garbage, like it's as bad as the others, but it really isn't. It's actually a decent film, and one that I enjoy watching so much. And this is not because of nostalgia or anything, I just think the movie overall is just fun. And now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Home Alone 2 is better than the original in any way. I mean, I didn't expect it to be either, because the Home Alone 1 is just so good. However, it stands on its own as a decent film and one that I enjoy watching very much. So let's talk about it. But first, I just want to say that yes, this is my last review of 2019, and if you're wondering why I had that Pacific Rim tease at the end of my Dr. Sleep review, well, that was because I was originally going to make that end this video, but honestly, these last 3 weeks at school have been so tiring and just so exhausting, so I didn't have time to really do it. So I'll most likely make that video next year, just so you guys know that. And besides, I just thought that to end 2019 off, I should review a holiday movie, so yeah, here we are. Anyways, enough babbling, let's talk about the movie itself. So, first off, the main reason probably why I like this movie so much is because of the pacing. Now, I really like the first movie, as I've said, but I actually think the pacing in this movie is a little bit better, and in fact, if I had to choose between watching either the first one or the second one again, I would probably choose this one, and that's pretty high praise because I really do think the pacing in the first movie is really great as well. But this movie just has so much stuff packed into it. There's never a dull scene in this movie, it's just so much fun throughout it. And I really like that, so the pacing in this movie is something that I really adore. Another great thing about this movie is that while the comedy isn't like fantastic or as good as the first movie, it's just so charming and likable that ultimately I end up laughing a lot when watching this movie. And of course, the characters are once again great. Like, of course Kevin is good, of course Marvin and Harry are good. But the standout of this movie, by far, is, of course, Tim Curry. As always, Tim Curry is by far the most memorable part of this movie. Like, seriously. He's funny, likable, and has by far the most quotable lines in the movie. He's just overall great. But I have to be fair, and I have to talk about some of the complaints that I've heard people, use against this movie. So, here we go. So let's start off with the most obvious complaint about this movie, that being that it's just the first movie, but just set in New York instead of Kevin's own house. And yes, this is 100% true. The movie is extremely similar to the first movie. In fact, it's almost a beat-for-beat remake of the first movie, in fact. In fact, this might kind of be a weird comparison, but I actually think there's a lot of similarities between Home Alone 2 and Star Wars The Force Awakens. I mean, think about it. They're very similar to one of their previous movies, and they're both sequels to that previous movie. Home Alone is a sequel to Home Alone, and Star Wars The Force Awakens is a sequel to the original trilogy. More specifically though, The Force Awakens is very similar to A New Hope. In fact, it's basically a beat-for-beat remake of the original. Not a shot-for-shot remake, I'm very tired of people saying that, a beat-for-beat remake. However, I do think Star Wars The Force Awakens can get away with this a little bit more than Home Alone 2. Because The Force Awakens came out a long time after A New Hope, and well, the previous Star Wars movies, aka the prequels, hadn't really left a good taste in society's mouth, so it makes sense that Disney would want to make a movie that's very similar to one of the original movies. And yeah, I completely understand that. I could also see The Force Awakens as more of an homage to A New Hope, rather than just a remake or just a cash grab, because it's definitely not a cash grab, and it isn't quite a remake. I mean, yeah, it's not a remake, it's a sequel, obviously, but like, yeah, because of this, I do think The Force Awakens is a little bit more, well, innocent of this. I feel like it can get away with it a little bit more than Home Alone 2. This is because Home Alone 2 came out directly after Home Alone. I mean, think about it. The Force Awakens came out after both Empire and Jedi and the prequels. I mean, that's 5 movies between A New Hope and The Force Awakens, while with Home Alone and Home Alone 2, there was no gap, it was just a continuation. So yeah, I could definitely see why people think this would be pretty lazy, and well, yeah, I kind of agree, but I mean, think about it this way, they tried something different in Home Alone 3 and just look how that turned out. In fact, that's yet another comparison to The Force Awakens. A lot of people like to say that the prequels are better than The Force Awakens because, well, at least they were original. But, like, just because they're original doesn't mean that they're good. And The Force Awakens, well, it's not really that original. It is a good movie, so I think we should judge a movie more by rather if it's good or not, than rather if it's original or not. I just don't really think that's a fair complaint to make, you know? And no, I'm not saying that people are defending Home Alone 3 or anything. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that they actually like Home Alone 3 and think it's better than Home Alone 2. But even then, still, you gotta, respect Home Alone 2 at least a little bit. At least it wasn't that horrible. Anyways, another problem with this movie that I've heard people say is that Macaulay Culkin isn't trying as hard as he was in the first movie, and that his acting in this is pretty bad, and yeah, I can kind of understand this one as well. Most of the time, Kevin is really monotone in this movie, and even times like when he's yelling out to his mother, like he did in the first movie, it just doesn't feel like he's putting that much emotion into it. I wish I had the clip here to show you, but unfortunately I couldn't find it on YouTube, so sorry about that. However, yeah, I can't really defend this. His acting in this movie really isn't all that good, but I think that it's kind of made up by the fact that Kevin is at least still like he was in the first movie. Even though, I understand this complaint. I can't actually say too much against this. And finally, the last complaint I'll talk about is that this movie is really stupid. Now, I'll use a couple of scenes as examples here. First off is the scene in this movie where Kevin uses the television to scare off the hotel staff. Now, this is very similar to the first movie where he used the old TV movie and all that stuff to scare away the pizza guy. But, in my opinion, even though it's dumb, yeah, it's still fun to watch, and I think, yeah, it's just a funny scene, honestly. And while yes, it is basically just the same as the first movie, I actually think it's better than the first movie, and that's because of, well, Tim Curry. He's in the scene, so, I kind of have to like it more than the first movie. There's also other scenes, like, towards the end of the movie when Harry basically gets thrown into the air and lands onto a car, and it basically just crushes the car. I mean, yeah, that's really unrealistic and stupid, but it's also just funny. I don't even know how else to describe it. I just find it charming, and I don't find it distracting at all. It's just funny, honestly. And honestly, I think that's a good summation of what I think of this movie. Well, yes, it might be unoriginal, and it's basically just the first movie again. I still think it's a decent film, mainly because of the characters, the pacing, and the fact that it's just really funny and charming to me. I can't really explain it. It's just fun to me. And yeah, this might be a bit of a guilty pleasure because the movie isn't really that good, but you know what? I still enjoy it. And for me, this will stay a Christmas classic for a very long time. So all in all, I will give this movie a 7 out of 10. An overall decent flick. But anyways guys, that was pretty much my last review of 2019. Hope you guys have a great Christmas, and I'll see you guys next year. And my god, we're moving on to the 2020s now. The 2010s are going to be over. Holy, that still hasn't really hit me just how insane that is. But anyways guys, like I said, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys next year. Bye!